Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Solo Spooky Story. My name's Rob, and today I'll be your host. For those of you that don't know, the Solo Spooky Stories are shorter episodes every other week where I present a story that I find particularly interesting, or something that's been submitted by a listener, or something that Suze has also found that, we just want to talk about, and, it offers kind of a different way to deliver stories as well. It's just a one-on-one between you and me, the listener, and, it's just something a bit different. It's not our usual conversation that myself and Suze have, where we ramble a lot at the start and slowly make our way through a story. This one's a little bit more focused, only lasts for maybe 15-20 minutes max, and it's just something a little bit different. But with that said, I hope you're all having a lovely day whenever it is that you're listening to this. It's been particularly nice here weather-wise in Ireland recently, and it's just been nice to enjoy the sun, because it's unfortunately not going to last much longer for us in Ireland. The weather usually has a way of punishing us, but we'll make the most of it while we can. But as I said, whenever it is you're listening to this, I hope you're having a lovely day. And we're going to get right into it. So it's been a while since we've looked at a cryptid case. I've as we all know by now, I'm mad for a UFO or alien story. Just absolutely mad for it. It's really my bread and butter of the paranormal world. I do love them. I do love a good cryptid story every once in a while. And I try to find ones that are a little bit less known, or, at least I'm not familiar with anyway. I think there's stories out there that, look, we could all do and would find pretty interesting, but I like to find ones that are a little bit less known and make people aware of them. And this one today, it's a fun one. It's the whole sea serpent sort of idea, which I'm a big fan of. Absolutely love the stories like the Loch Ness Monster and the Ogopogo and things like that, and one of these today is no different. So today we are talking about a cryptid that's based in Russia, and I think this might actually be our first episode dealing in Russia. We actually have some listeners from Russia, so I figured it's time we eventually look at some places here. Russia's a large old place, as I'm sure everyone is aware, so it's only natural that there would be some cryptids and creatures and paranormal happenings coming out of this particularly large landmass. So yeah, today we are talking about the Brosno Dragon, which is a great name, straight up. It gives you everything you need in a good story. You've got a great name, it's a good start. And I think my favorite thing that I saw described about this online in a few different places that I looked was people pretty much saying that he's effectively the evil Russian cousin of the Loch Ness Monster, which I think is brilliant. So whereas the Loch Ness Monster generally I don't think attacks really anyone or kind of stays away, the Brosno Dragon is very different. It has no fucks to give, and it has no time for people coming up on its territory. And I'm all for that. It's also just got this weird air of mystery about it, and the region that it's in just adds to it. Loch Ness is obviously in Scotland. It's a little bit more open, and it's a little bit easier to get to. The Brosno Dragon, not so much. Lake Brosno is in the west of Russia. It's about 600 kilometers south of Moscow, and it is remote, very, very remote. So this is all the bits that we need for a good cryptid story. So yeah, it's located in the Tver region of Russia. I apologize if I've mispronounced that. And the best thing about this is that it's surrounded, this lake, by a number of abandoned villages, just crumbling houses, signs of past civilizations, all gone. It just, the story writes itself, basically. So you've got this abandoned area, stories of a cryptid, this remote lake that's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's surrounded by dense forest. It's just perfect. The lake itself, Lake Brosno, it's pretty deep as well, actually. It's 43 meters deep, which is, it's a fair old depth for a lake. And I suppose just adding to even more of the mystery factor in all of this, or the creepy factor, there's actually allegedly a sunken church at one side of the lake near one of the islands on it. Like, whoever set this cryptid here and released it into the world, 10 out of 10. I have to give it to them. You got abandoned villages, you've got a church that's fucking sunk into the ground, into the lake. Well done. No notes at all. I've looked into this sunken church actually, and allegedly the conditions there and how remote it is actually makes it quite difficult to conduct underwater archaeology there. I believe it's something to do with the type of water, like the the currents or, the temperature in the water, the depth, all that sort of stuff, it makes it quite difficult to conduct archaeological analysis on the water. So there's actually no date for the church that's there. So, it just adds more to the mystery. We don't actually know how old this building is, but it is claimed by the lake. So there's a number of species of fish allegedly living in this lake, including perch, burbot, and giant pike, which I was not aware were a thing, but there we go. And a lot of people who believe in the Brosno Dragon say that these three particular fish that live in the lake are ample enough food for a large creature to survive on. Apparently, the giant pike in particular are actually quite giant, funny enough. And this dragon, while I know I've kind of given a lot of comparisons to Loch Ness and to Nessie and things like that, the sightings actually of this creature date back much further. So they go all the way back to the 13th century, apparently. And the first sighting that seems to be agreed in its lore was that it was said to have attacked and scared a group of Tatar Mongol horsemen. So they apparently were, the Mongols were planning on launching an attack in Russia. They came up to this lake and this creature just emerged from it. This dragon-like creature just emerged from the water and apparently petrified them so much that they turned around and went back to Mongolia. You gotta love it. China had the Great Wall. Russia has a lake dragon. Both clearly helped with keeping Mongolians out. It's a weird one. And ever since that point onwards, there's been stories about this lake dragon coming out of the region. So one legend has described the creature being so enormous that it just by opening its mouth in the water, it's able to swallow fishermen whole and their boats. So not just people, but it can take on a full fucking boat as well. There's another story out there about a group of Vikings who were in the area. They were plundering and doing Viking shit, and they found this lake, and there was an island in the middle of it, and they decided what better place to hide gold and treasure and plundered items than on an island within a lake. So as they were getting ready to set out on the lake, allegedly the Brosno Dragon emerged from the lake and swallowed the island whole, which again, fucking fair play to it. This is something else. So the creature is described as this giant serpentine-like beast with dragon-like features. Not quite sure what dragon-like features means. It's often said to have scales. It's got a large head and like razor-sharp teeth with a long coiling body. So it just looks cool. It kind of looks like the drawings that you'd see kind of Chinese dragons. It's kind of got that look to it. It's a few kind of places I've looked. Art kind of depicts it like that. I've seen others depict it as kind of more the living dinosaur style Nessie images that we see out there, the kind of Leopolodon style dinosaur, but it's a water dragon. I think everyone kind of knows what it looks like at this stage. So the older stories are very, very cool, but I found this really interesting. Apparently by the 18th and 19th centuries, people in the area still very much so believing that this dragon exists. The stories kind of shifted gear, so they went from this dragon literally swallowing lakes and people, and it turned more into, it would surface a little bit in the evenings, but if people got anywhere near it, it would immediately submerge and swim away, like just getting away. Is it a coincidence that this happens around the time that cameras start coming into the world? Maybe not. But allegedly it became shy and tried to escape, except for one story from the 1940s during the height of World War II. Allegedly, a German plane crash landed on the lake, was floating there. The pilot managed to ditch it in the lake. As the plane is floating there, allegedly Brosno's not having any of this, and he decides, fuck you, get your plane out of my lake. And he comes up from underneath and swallows the plane whole, which you gotta give it to him. That's certainly a way of clearing up and keeping pollution out of the lake. Just fucking swallow it yourself. So he's kind of gone into a bit more of a mischievous streak now. So he's gone from attacking to retreating to attacking again. And now he's settled into this kind of middle ground now where people say that he's responsible for capsizing boats, for rocking them and such. Some people allegedly say that it's responsible for the mysterious disappearance of people. I'm not so sure about that, but yeah, there's still like newspapers and stuff in the region that actually travel there fairly frequently with cameras trying to get an image of it. So yeah, so it's it's kind of cool if this creature does exist, that it's a living dinosaur, if you want to look at it that way. Like, a lot of people say the same thing about the Loch Ness Monster, the Ogopogo, that it's somehow living in this lake with enough fish there that are large enough that it can basically maintain its size and manage to just survive for this amount of time. I personally love that more than any sort of cryptid story of like paranormal monster. Just if there is a living dinosaur just chilling out in the lake there. Kind of other theories that I've seen about it is that, you know, apart from it obviously being a dinosaur, that there's other suggestions out there that it's not a dinosaur or a dragon at all, but some sort of mutant beaver, which, like, it could be, that potentially could be the greatest theory ever given for what a creature could be. A mutant beaver that's somehow capable of growing to a large enough size. I don't think they're trying to say that it's dragon size, but some sort of like hench mutant beaver who's capable of knocking off boats and scaring people. I'm a big fan of that. And other people have said that it could be a very old fish that's somehow managed to become abnormally large due to its age. I do know that there are some fish out there that do live like particularly long amounts of time, and crustaceans as well can live for a long time. I think Greenland sharks can actually live for like 300-400 years, or potentially even longer. So, you know, who's to say that there isn't some potential just large fish out there that could exist this long, that lives in this lake. The lake itself, as I said, it's 47 meters deep. Like, it's a pretty deep lake, so, you know, there is potential that something could be there. You know, who are we to say? There's also been some links to like natural phenomenon being the cause of this, which I actually find really interesting. So I mentioned earlier that there's some issues with the underwater archaeological excavation at the lake, and the more I looked into this, so there's something to do with the conditions in the water, the temperature of the water, but also there's apparently fractures at the bottom of the lake, and their exact depth and dimensions are completely unknown. But there's a theory in the region that these fractures actually hide a volcano, and this volcano could be somewhat active, and people have pointed to this as the exact explanation for the Brosno Dragon. Apparently underwater volcanic eruptions that do happen in obviously bodies of water, that's why it's underwater. It's called a limnic eruption, and it can actually release a cloud of deadly gas from the lake, and these clouds of gas do frequently and can kill animals and people. But the key thing here is that for the gas coming up out of the volcano, the water will bubble quite a lot, and it's this bubbling water that a lot of people have pointed to being effectively kind of misidentified as a creature below the surface that's obviously releasing air bubbles, and that, you know, an unfamiliar fisherman in the region, or someone who's just obviously not educated in these sort of things, or, you know, invading armies, could see these bubbles coming up from the water, think it's some sort of creature, approach it trying to figure out what's going on, and then unfortunately get a lethal dose of toxic fumes which come up out of the water, making them obviously like pass out or fall in the water and you know, die. So anyone who's looking on and potentially seeing this happen understandably might start panicking, thinking that they've just been attacked by some sort of creature and that they've effectively been pulled into the water. Like, I could absolutely see how that could be a thing. So yeah, that's kind of one of the more accepted theories around the natural phenomenon there. Another one that I'm really interested in, but like not so sure if this makes as much sense, is that the dragon could be a mirage. So apparently a lot of the sightings have been in summer months, and apparently the region that we're in, it's perfect for mirages to appear on the surface of this lake. So I think it's something to do with the heat hitting off the surface of the lake, the heat from the sun or something like that. It causes images to basically look like they're floating above the surface of the lake, and that people are just misattributing this to it. They're potentially going into the water and maybe drowning or something like that, or we don't know. I think a mirage is probably more likely than a mutant beaver, to be clear. So, you know, maybe it's a little bit more on the believable side. But I would say that if the dragon is a mirage, then there's a lot of people who've reported seeing like sailors be swallowed by it, or, you know, whole armies retreating because they've seen this creature. I'm not quite sure if a mirage would do that, especially sailors. I would presume that they would be familiar with what a mirage is. I don't think that seeing it on a lake would be something that they wouldn't be unfamiliar with, so I'm not so sure about that one. So yeah, just to, I suppose, give one final piece of credence to this case, there actually was a search in modern times for the Brosno Dragon. In 2002, a number of scientists from the Cosmopoisk, again, apologies if that's pronounced incorrectly, Research Association. They attempted to find the dragon once and for all, basically, similar to how other lakes and such have surveyed. And they brought some deep sounding echo equipment with them to basically map the bottom of the lake, the floor of the lake, and see if there's anything there. And allegedly, there was an anomaly found within the lake. I don't know kind of how thorough they were with this, but they claimed that there was a large enough anomaly in the lake that the size of what they said was a railway cart, which is quite large. Like, that's a few meters in size. They said that it hovered about 5 meters from the bottom of the lake. So we're talking about 40 meters down or so, which is quite deep when you think about it. Like, that is quite deep down. They're saying that this creature or anomaly, whatever you want to call it, was hovering there and was large enough that they were able to actually like make out the size of it on this kind of the graph that comes out. But when they went back to rescan the area again, there was nothing there. Now, I don't know how long there was in between these things, but I do find it interesting that one scan showed up something and then a similar scan in the area later, there was nothing there. So was it malfunctioning equipment or was the creature swimming off somewhere else? Here are we to know. But yeah, that concludes the Brosno Dragon. I do love this. As I said, I'm a bit of a horror for these sort of sea serpent stories, you know, these creatures that potentially have survived for millennia underwater, completely just undisturbed by people, or in this case, you know, swallowing ships whole to prevent people from getting to him. I gotta love the hustle. He's keeping his lake clean. It's just such a cool story, you know, and even if it's complete bullshit, it's managed to keep people captivated for 700 years at this stage, and probably will for another long period of time. But yeah, with that said, I hope you enjoyed this one. As I said, I really enjoyed looking into it. It's a fun one. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You can reach out to us on social media at Threads and Instagram at the Spooky AF Pod. You can get us on YouTube, and you can also email us at the spookyafpodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. It's an interesting one. But with that said, I hope you're having a lovely day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy, guys.